And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 296 of This Old Marketing, recorded on Thursday, November 4th, 2021. And with me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and really, honestly, the only guy who could possibly reconcile the relationship of Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr., Mr. Joe Polizzi.
You did not just go there.
Yeah, I did.
That's very unfortunate that you went there.
Yeah.
What's up? Okay.
I knew this would send you into a rant.
First of all, congratulations to your Cowboys. They can win even with a quarterback that has thrown one pass in 3 years. That's amazing. Right. So you've got everything working for you. Now, I have purposely not gone too much down the rabbit hole with Odell and Baker and whatnot. But what's with Odell's father putting out an 11-minute video on all the time that Odell is open? I mean, precisely what that will do. It was very calculated to do that. Yes. And then a day later, or maybe the day, but at least I saw the news a day later, there's like, oh, Odell Beckham Jr. is not with the Browns anymore. I'm like, okay, what kind of crazy? This is Browns craziness from 10 years ago or 5 years ago that we saw, where you get a whole soap opera going on, has nothing to do with football. I thought we were
the fact that he is with the team, but not with the team, right? The coach comes out and says he's essentially not on the team anymore. Essentially, I love that.
Essentially,
word.
when the coach says you're essentially not on the team, you're not on the team.
Yeah,
you don't need the qualifier.
Right.
You know,
that's right. That's right. It's like, you're essentially. No, it's not essentially. You're just not on the team anymore.
It's like you're. Yeah. Well, what happened to Joe Bob? Well, Joe Bob is essentially dead. Well, Joe Bob's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what that means? Yeah.
You're essentially fired.
You're almost dead. Another Princess Bride reference. I'm a little bit torn. Obviously, I was at the game. You and JK were texting after. And as you know, I didn't respond to any of those because I was heart hurt.
Yeah.
Because and congratulations to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm sorry, the Cleveland Browns are a much more talented team, and they beat us. They beat us, and it's just at home, and you're like, here it is again. We can't catch a break. So,
yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's I think this has everything to do with, the one thing that the Browns finally have is a great coaching staff. And what's gone on, look, there's no doubt the team has suffered through injuries. You've had tons of injuries. And, you got a couple of players back for this game and all of that. But at the end of the day, this whole argument with Baker Mayfield, just for the record, anybody in the NFC East and all of our New York Giants fans would have said, yeah, told you so. It's like this is not a surprise from that particular player.
Well, from an athletic standpoint, to his defense, he had a lot of, and this 2 weeks ago, he had a lot of drop balls. And
yes,
but he is injured. I think both his shoulders are injured right now, and he's playing through that. So great for him. But with those injuries, he becomes probably the fourth best wide receiver on that team with the injuries.
That's right. Exactly right.
Odell Beckham Jr. in his prime, not healthy.
In his prime, that's the key, right?
We want that player. But I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what it is where realistically Baker does find other options, usually successfully, to throw to. So whatever. That's fine. I hope this is the right decision. I hope Stefanski, who's the coach, the Browns coach, just said, look, we're not going to have any of this. We're a better team without these kind of distractions. And right now, he was sort of the only distraction. So good.
That's right.
You're done.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
I mean, you know that from being a Cowboys fan, all the distractions that you get.
Oh, my God. Dez was
huge.
I mean, it was when they cut Dez, it was there was going to be a revolt in Dallas. But if you thought about it for more than 5 seconds, you kind of went, yeah, it's the right thing to do. I mean, he's not his prime anymore. He's not prime Dez. The lifespan of a receiver in the NFL is short. And, it is the rare receiver who can last, years and years and years. It's just tough on the body, and it's tough on, age quickly catches up with you and your speed and, all that stuff. So it is what it is. And Beckham was always good at the circus catches, but he always dropped as many balls as he caught.
No, that's true. I think he has the worst percentage of
he does
for drops in the league. So I mean that's a pretty decent stat to look at. So
right,
and then you have Jarvis Landry last week, who never drops a pass, who's never dropped a pass in his whole career, drops 3 critical passes in the fourth quarter. So whatever. Anyways, how are you? How are things in California?
Enough with that nonsense football. It's beautiful. It is fall. It is things are good. It is a lovely time of year. We're having great outside weather, and we seem, knock on wood, knock on everything that is wood-like. We have skipped, it seems, fire season. Which has become sort of a tradition around here in California. Yeah, it's just, the way the weather pattern seems to be happening right now with the rain that we're getting in Northern California and the cooler temperatures here and the lack of real, heavy Santa Ana winds it's been lovely. We've just avoided a lot of the crappy fire season that we typically get. So we get through Thanksgiving, and I think we will have made it all the way through. So it's a great time of year. I'm a little bummed that I walked into the grocery store last week, and there was, I'm not even kidding, above the cash register, and there was a pumpkin, a turkey, and a Christmas tree. They were decorating for all of it. Like they just,
I like that approach.
They just went, screw it. We're doing all of it. We're
just a total blitz. Just go wide.
Yeah.
We're not gonna target at all. We're gonna put out the leprechaun, everything. The Easter bunny,
exactly.
All at the same time.
And then it's just literally happy and point your finger up and say pick whichever one it happens to be.
Does that mean that the shop owner just gave up on life? I mean, isn't that what it's telling you? It's just like, I'm so sick of living. I'm just going to throw all this out at the same time, and that's it. They have to deal.
That's it. They're just sort of throwing up their hands and saying, nope. They're just noping out of the whole sort of trying to time.
Well, it's so interesting. So, when we were in Chicago for Build a Better Agency Summit, and our wonderful friend Drew was up at the front, and you said this at Content Marketing World too, but you basically said, let's have some grace, right? Let's give a little bit.
That's right.
We're short-staffed all the way around, and especially with the servers and those types of things. And of course, now you go into a restaurant of any kind, and they almost immediately say, hey, we're short-staffed, so it's going to be longer than normal. And I think you're just like that's going into every part of our life right now. Like, I'm sorry, we can only decorate one time in 3 months, so here you go. We're short-staffed. Exactly right. It's only me. It's the manager. I'm doing checkout. I'm bagging the groceries. I'm go ahead and buying through the supply chain. It's only me in the store. So please. That's it, though.
This is what you get.
But it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many times in the last 3 months that you've been out to eat or doing something or going out. Because my wife and I, we love doing the patio stuff. So we'll go out, we'll go sit at a patio, especially when it's nice weather in Cleveland. We'll sit down, and first thing that says, hey, sorry I was late. We're short-staffed. I hope, and then of course, that sets your expectations, which is great. but now it's trickling into everything. It's like, oh, say, I'm sorry you bought this new car. It doesn't have seats. We were short-staffed. We couldn't get you a car with seats. I mean, that's how we're going to go, you know? Maybe I'm exaggerating.
It is. Well, a little bit. I mean, maybe just a little. Maybe just a little.
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, who knows the supply chain on turkeys? Maybe a lot of they're not. It's not going to be available. Not going to have.
Well, my wife is out there shopping right now. She's like, I'm not. She's like, she's taking it. She's taking the mainstream news coverage at its word, right? That nothing's.
Well,
gonna
that
be
started a month ago,
Christmas.
right? I mean, because I covered it in my personal newsletter. It was, how many? It was I think it was late September. All the media coverage was like, "Oh, get your toys now, because they're not going to be in for Christmas or holiday or whatever you celebrate."
Yep.
So there. Anyways, so hey, before we start, we need to talk about 300.
300.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We need to talk about 300. So, first of all, thank you. It's been a little overwhelming.
It's great.
Which has been really nice. The amount
Using
of
the
questions
hashtag this old marketing.
The hashtag is lighting up and email and all of that stuff. So thank you for all of that. Keep it coming. We definitely want to see more and more questions. Those are great. Hashtag us up at This Old Marketing on Twitter. We've also added 2 other capabilities if you are not a Twitter user or just don't want to use Twitter for whatever reason. You can come to thisoldmarketing.site, our website. And as we speak, we're implementing like a little tool that you can record audio. So you can actually record yourself asking a question. We'd love to get a couple of those in there too, just so that you can add your voice to our wonderful episode of 300. Or quite frankly, you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can use our contact form and just send us a link to your audio file, right? Stick it on iCloud or Dropbox or whatever file sharing, that you want. Just give us a link, stick a link in the contact form and send us a link. So we'd love to get your audio too, so that we can include that as part of the episode.
And keep it clean. Certain people know who they are. I mean, come on. But we've gotten in a lot of questions, so it's going to be very difficult. But we're giving away. You're going to do killing marketing. So every question that we have on the 300th episode that we include, we'll get a copy of Killing Marketing. Robert's donating that, and then I'm donating $50 of Tilt Coin that you will get as well. So you get theoretically $51 in value.
Right? Exactly.
No, what's Killing Marketing worth this on open market? I don't know. $15, $20.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's more, it's really, really inherently
cash equivalent
way more
value.
Than that. Yeah. But that'll be fun. So, I was very surprised by all the This Old Marketing hashtag questions already. Some very good questions.
Oh, it's been great. Yeah, no, they're great questions. Some fun questions as well. And so, it's we're looking forward to it, and we're going to be getting ready for that. We've also got some special things that we might be doing as well. So, you'll want to tune into that, because we are going to be doing some different things that, we'll start to tease out here in the next week or two.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
Should we get to the news? Should we talk about news?
You know what? It was unfortunate last week. I think that we were recording
we were literally recording as the announcement.
As the Meta Facebook announcement happened.
That's exactly right. We were literally recording as the announcement went down. And so if you're wondering why we didn't cover this last week, it's because, as we record on Thursdays, Facebook didn't listen to us. We called them and said, listen, you should basically wait or do this early. So that we can cover it.
If it was an hour difference, we could have actually done almost live reading of.
That's true.
We did not. So
and Zuckerberg called us back and said, "No, I'm not going to do that." That's my Zuckerberg impression.
That's your Zuckerberg impression.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not moving my lips when I talk.
There should be an earth-shattering kaboom. All right. Let's talk about Facebook, or Meta, as it were, and we're gonna talk about a couple of different things here. One, of course, is the evolution to the word meta and the metaverse, what this means in the sort of context of marketing, of companies, of media, and everything we talk about on this show. And but we'll also include, because you can't not include it, as in literally as the rebranding of Meta was taking place, so were the launch of the Facebook Papers, which is just a brilliant marketing campaign from the media.
Intriguing timing.
And
yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like Facebook knew that the Facebook Papers were coming out. But no, go ahead.
It's just, I mean, I talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago and what I thought here, but,
PR stunt, if you will. No, go ahead. Yes, please.
Anyway, so the Axios article that we'll link to in the show notes, reports based on leaked whistleblower documents from Facebook known as the Facebook Papers, I love how they branded it, appeared on a broad range of news outlets on Monday, shedding light on what the company knew about harms caused on its platform and how it handled that information. Why does it matter, says Axios? Because the reports paint a detailed picture of Facebook's efforts over the years to grapple with major problems from hate speech to inciting violence while continuing to pursue its business objectives. Details the report so far draw three big conclusions. One, Facebook is struggling to police information abroad. Two, Facebook is grappling with an aging user base. Shockingly. And three, Facebook struggles to police content that leads to radicalization and mental health issues. And so, basically, the article concludes these reports are all based on the same set of thousands of pages of documents obtained by whistleblower Frances Haugen, who is set to testify in front of UK regulators on Monday. That would be probably Monday of next week, I would think. Or no, actually, Monday of this week. That we will pair with, and then we can sort of open it up, and I want to totally get your take on this because this is right up your alley. The idea of the metaverse itself. Like, what the heck are we talking about here? And there we'll link to a couple of articles. One that is sort of just an overview of the metaverse, and that's from Engadget. Thought it was pretty good description of it. And two would be a Wired article that just came out that talks about how the metaverse is simply big technology, but even bigger, and is a really sort of more in-depth exploration of what the metaverse is. So throw all that into a big pot of fall stew, and what do you think, Mr. Polizzi? What's going on here with this Facebook Papers, Meta, and the metaverse?
Well, so first of all, with the Facebook Papers, it's almost like the major media outlets just didn't feel like it was hitting home. So they said, this is real. Like, there's so much evidence on this, we have to give it a name. So it's pretty damning evidence. It's horrible. If you go through even the cut and paste job that Axios does here with what all the stuff that's gone on, it's horrible. That they knew about certain things that happened, that misinformation, and they didn't do, so let's just tell it like it is, and you and I have on this program a lot. Facebook is 100% motivated by revenues and profits, and they'll do anything for more of that. Which, whatever. There are a lot of companies out there that do the same thing. You could look back at Big Oil, you could look back at Philip Morris that made decisions, and I think that you have to put now in the conversation when you talk about companies like a Philip Morris and what happened with cigarettes, and I think you have to look at the same thing that's going on, and maybe even worse of what's gone on here. And it's a tragedy. Now, what the decision that Facebook made eerily coincidental timing with this whole Meta thing is brilliant. I think that. And by the way, we know this. Zuckerberg has been talking about the metaverse for a long time. I feel bad for Neil Stephenson, the author of Snow Crash, who gave birth to this idea of the metaverse. By the way, have you read Snow Crash?
Oh yes,
Snow Crash.
Yes.
By the way, read Snow Crash because it's a great science fiction book, but also because it's training for what may happen.
It is
very soon.
It's exactly it.
So this is what I see. I wanted to get your take on what I feel is happening. We've talked about on this show the idea of where tokenization, digital property, the metaverse is going, and the whole idea of the metaverse to me is that you have real property like your car and your house, and you will have digital property. And we've seen this first in art, I mean, with non-fungible tokens, and with Blau and music. We covered that a couple weeks ago, and he's selling basically music experiences digitally that people can own. This is just step 0.5. Like, we're just getting out of the dugout here as we go. But there is going to be a place where digital property is owned, and you can have that ownership on independent websites and independent locations on the metaverse, where we can take our branded Nike shoes that we bought as digital property. We can take them into Roblox and Minecraft and all these other communities and into meetings, and that'll be great. We can do that. They're portable. Or we can do what Facebook wants to have happen, and this is very strategic and a very smart move. Facebook is trying to be the IOI of the metaverse. Facebook wants to be the walled garden. They want all these assets and the NFTs and the property to happen within Facebook, and Facebook serves that up. And it's brilliant because as we've talked about, Facebook is the one big social tech company that doesn't control their supply chain, because because Apple has the iOS devices and you've got Google with the Android, so they have to go through another person, another entity, to get their information out. Zuckerberg hates that. So now he's like, we can own this portion of the metaverse, and everybody has to play by our rules, which honestly is really scary, because I believe in a decentralized metaverse, if we're going to call it the metaverse, and Facebook is coming. So from their standpoint, I think it's brilliant. They're putting $10 billion and 10,000 employees or whatever crazy numbers to this effort in getting AR and trying to make that purchase of Oculus worth something. I don't know where it's going to go, Robert. I want to get your take on this, but that's kind of the way I see it. They want to build this walled garden virtual world, and everyone else is fighting against that. And I think it's a great move on their part, because it fits right along with their strategy of having to go through them to basically do everything.
Yeah. I think it's so there's a reason I think that we're giving it this much ink, digital voice ink, as it were, because it really is a media play here. This is as, we're thinking of it as a, almost a virtual reality or anything like that. But this is pure and simple a media, a walled garden media play.
I agree with
that. Will have its fingers into marketing, to branding, to e-commerce, to content, to B2B, B2C. It's all going to have a play here. So it's not just the evolution of social media. It is so much bigger than that. And so first of all, on the Facebook papers, hats off to the and I have not seen any sort of sourcing on this, but whoever in the media sort of decided to put a brand around that and get it focused and make it a thing, brilliant. First of all, I thought that was really, because just to your point, now people can talk about it as a thing instead of this sort of 9-armed tentacled thing that nobody can really understand. And so, but what I think is interesting is, and I was listening to Professor Galloway's podcast where he was interviewing Meredith Broussard, who's one of his colleagues at NYU, and she wrote a book just recently called Artificial Unintelligence. And he actually asked her to comment on this, and she had a comment about it that I thought was pretty spot on, which was, this is less about them being Philip Morris and the cigarette companies, and it's more about them being chemical companies. And I thought that was an interesting metaphor, because they then get into it and sort of explain it to say, in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and even into the early 80s, basically the regulators, the government came in and said, hey, look, chemical companies are becoming so huge, they're polluting everything, right? You know this better than anybody living where you live. The pollution and the sort of horrible things that were happening in the environment based on chemical companies having little to zero regulation over them, was awful.
Well, yeah,
and
what's
then
happened
regulation
in Flint,
came in and basically
Flint, what's happened in Flint, Michigan, and what happened in
Exactly.
like the Aaron Brockovich story is all about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the idea here is that they're not going to come in and the angle I think that is most interesting here is not to come in and say that social media are cigarettes, is to rather say social media are chemicals, and that if you're creating the chemicals, you have to also be responsible for cleaning up the mess that the chemicals create when you pollute the environment. And that includes things like radicalizing and misinformation, and also what's happening to teenagers and teenage girls especially, and all of those things. And that, I think, is a really interesting idea. And I still stick by my conspiracy theory here that at some level Facebook wants this. That there is a level of PR at play here to say, yes, we definitely want this, because if any company, quite frankly, because remember, this isn't just Facebook. We're talking about Google, we're talking about Twitter, we're talking about LinkedIn, we're talking about every social media platform out there that would ultimately fall under this kind of regulation. And if there's any company that actually can withstand this from a financial perspective, it would be Facebook. And so in many ways, fixing this would legitimize what they do. And so I think that there's I don't think it's full on tinfoil hat stuff, right? But I believe that they're playing an active role in this. I'll put it that way. As it pertains to the metaverse, I'm skeptical beyond sort of the idea of looking at this from a small m media idea, which when I look at something like Roblox, and I look at even things like World of Warcraft, and Minecraft, where there are true metaverses, where they are true economies being built in there. They're for real. Those things are for real. I mean, people spend days. I used to work in the video game business way back in the day, and when World of Warcraft was like, maybe at its peak, and there were people who spent 9 hours, 10 hours a day in World of Warcraft, buying things, selling things, going on adventures, making friends. They were living in World of Warcraft. And those universes are full-on economies. Minecraft is a full-on economy, and Roblox is a full-on economy. And you can build those things, but they are niche in nature. And I don't think we're going to see sort of a reemergence of something like Second Life that we all saw in the early 2000s sort of take over the same level of presence that Facebook has today. I don't see that. I can't see that. It's just too specialized right now. Certainly not in the short term. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, but not in the short term. We're not going to see billions of people signing up for a singular metaverse experience. There's just too many people.
God,
who don't
I hope
get it.
not. I hope it stays on different platforms. I think that what I'm intrigued with, what hasn't happened is,
well, that's a great point too, by the way. That what you're saying is like that the idea of a singular place or a walled garden.
Well,
is
that's
also
and that's
not
what
as
I think
good.
Facebook wants. They want what's the place, Gregarious Games. They want to be and I look at them as the bad in Ready Player One. They're the bad team. They're
Right.
IOI.
Exactly.
That you want to log in and you go on to the Facebook metaverse. But I think the next thing that we're going to start seeing, and this is why video games, they're going to lead with video games, and crypto are going to lead with this thing, because the model is already there where you have the economies going, but right now what you don't have is portability. I can't buy a sword in Valorant, which is a free game, which is the model now, instead of EA's model of $60 buying Madden. The video game model they figured out is make it free and have them buy all kinds of stuff and upgrades. And if you get a small enough percent or large enough percentage to buy all the stuff, it's going to be $1 billion franchise like Valorant is. And my son plays Valorant. But right now I buy something in Valorant, But that, by the way, is just a token. It's a sword. I only can use that in Valorant. I think you'll be able to port that over to another platform. I believe that you'll be able to take, ultimately, I don't know when this is going to happen, but they'll start to talk to each other where I can buy something in Roblox and move it into Minecraft.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, there's the promise of a e-commerce driven metaverse,
yes,
right? Where you say, I have X, let's just use today's language and we'll say Amex loyalty points, right? So, I get thousands of Amex loyalty points because I buy stuff and do stuff with my Amex card. If I can port those Amex tokens, right, now that their loyalty points have been shifted over, now they're tokens, and I can shift those tokens over to a Valorant, or I can give some to my kid to go buy a sword or do those things, and they start becoming portable between platforms. Well, now you're talking about something, right? Now you're talking about, I mean, you talk about the difficulty of, it's already difficult enough for, the government to regulate things like the value of, your airline miles and, putting a value on those things and putting values on, the loyalty bucks that you get from your credit card companies and all those kinds of things that give you steep discounts on X or Y. That, I mean, it is going to become so complex, so fast, and so powerful, quite frankly, for those people to be able to, to utilize. It will be. This is where it transforms into a marketing strategy,
yes,
right? Because if I'm J.P. Morgan Chase, if I'm American Express, or if I'm, Capital One, so many of these credit card companies or airlines or restaurants or anything where you sort of develop loyalty points, and quite frankly, that is really any business ever, and you can start making those things portable to other economies, right, using, social tokens or just
it's just
tokens,
a token.
Right?
Everything's a token. I think. Well, the article that Joe Bagonis shared with us on This Old Marketing Tag is perfect with Nike. So this Tuesday, Nike applied for 7 trademarks applications for their swoosh, for Jordan, all kinds of stuff. Because from what you and I are saying here, they don't want to create a separate token or a separate thing for 70,000 different worlds that are already,
That's right.
There's already let's say there's 1,000 different worlds, and you and I only know 10 of them. We talk of Roblox, World of Warcraft, Valorant, whatever, the Fortnite. Those are already built, and then there's going to be a whole bunch more. But Nike is already integrated with some of those, and they have to do a lot of work to integrate so you can go into a certain platform and get your Nike shoes. Well, if they're portable, which the technology is getting to that point where you can take those, you can buy it one time from Nike and take them all over the place. And of course, the value of that increases. So it's a great brand move. Nike's actually selling a new product. And that's where I think a lot of people lose touch. And where you say a token or a fungible token or a non-fungible token, it gets too technologist-y, right? They don't oh, no.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
a thing.
Yeah.
It's just a way to account for ownership on the web. It's the one thing the internet has now that we can show digital ownership and value. And so Nike's in on board with it.
Well, it's portable. I think what the key word there is
portability,
right?
Yeah.
Is because that is when you have value with a currency, any kind of currency, any kind of, whether it be silver, gold, paper dollars, anything that is quite frankly the fungibility is the key there. How actually recognized is this across different economies? And once you have that recognition across economies that people value this thing, well, now you have something that is differentiating for sure, but two, the source of wealth. And it's just going to be fascinating. It was something I didn't tell you, by the way, even in our pre-show chat. One of the things that I've learned in the last week and a half, I've had a couple of people come to me with questions on this, and one of them started to tell me about what's going on here in Hollywood. Because right now, as you might expect, there's many of these talent agencies, William Morris, CAA, and all of them, what are they doing? Well, they're looking at these NFT communities like Bored Ape Yacht Club and and Crypto Dads and Crypto Punks and all of that, and they're saying basically, how do we build content platforms around all those, right? How do we build television shows, movies, et cetera, around these characters? How do we build a world for these collections of characters? And what they're doing is they're starting to hire Hollywood writers to write the world, to create the world for these characters, so that they actually they can be distributed via traditional classic media. You build the value of the world. But now the way they're funding that is sort of a chicken and egg situation, right? Do you launch the characters and get people like you and me and everybody else to sort of buy into the intellectual property of the characters first and then build a world, or do you build a world and then it's a really interesting debate right now that's going on that says, hey, we can get this crowdfunded, right? In other words, you can own stock, like you own stock in Bart Simpson, and so as you own the token, you own that character. Now, every time that character gets played on TV, you get a little bit of dough. That's, oh my God, you talk about a fascinating sort of economy that builds.
It's really crazy. I mean, I own a Crypto Dad, and they do a great job. But one of the reasons why is I'm trying to learn. Like, I'm trying to put my arms around this and figure it out. But so you own a Crypto Dad, and then so they've been doing some crazy things. So you get a Crypto Mom. So everyone that has a dad gets a mom, and then if you have a mom and a dad, you get a tot. It's crazy, right? But they're doing. They've already been talked to. They were talking about planning a Netflix series around the Crypto Dads or the crypto universe that they have. I guess they're building some land. They're actually building their own metaverse so that you can, every crypto family gets its own land. They can build a house, kind of like Roblox, right? This is a crazy
right.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. The key to making this is why we're talking about it a lot on this show is the fact that to drive these communities and audience building is going to be the stories behind it. So they're almost back-ending the stories. They start with the asset, and then it's almost like there was this big NFT project called Loot. Have you heard of this? Loot? What Loot did?
I have not.
Anyways, Loot went out. No. And the creator basically, every Loot NFT that you bought was like you had a bunch of stuff like from Dungeons and Dragons. You'd have a sword. You'd have spell powers. You'd have all these kinds of things. And he didn't give the creator didn't give any direction to it. You just could buy a card and you got these qualities with it, just like your Minotaur would or whatever. Well, people started to go crazy, and I guess there's like 100 different games that were created from that. So all the guy did was put out, here's the tools, go write your story. And these things are being created. By the way, if you want to buy one of these things now, it costs you like $20,000 for just one. It's nuts. But anyways,
it's amazing.
I think that's where we're headed, and what's going to drive all these communities is the stories behind it, and that's why I love this whole area. So it's bringing my two passions together. So
that's the and so I think that's the lesson. That's the takeaway here for me, and it sounds like for you, which is when we think about this, and this is something that when I was having coffee with my friend, I said that this is a new way to tell the same story we've been telling for hundreds of years, right? It's just the power, the real power is building an audience and telling a great story to that audience that keeps them engaged. That's it. That's all we're doing. All we're doing is remonetizing that and building, because when I was talking to him about it, I said the power that anything will get created here, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg launching some big, Second Life, or, Ready Player One sort of, metaverse of game playing, it will all of it will have zero to do with the technology and zero to do with the actual ways that you interact, and everything will have to do with the power and engaging content that they create and the audience they're able to attract with it. And that's where the power is. And so if you're trying to figure this out, I think that's if you're a brand, if you're a creator, If you're, a technologist in this space, it matters not, other than how can you create an audience and create the content to support it.
It's interesting
because the rest of it is just ones and zeros.
It's interesting. I've been trying to, with our revenue model and Killing Marketing, and then we took it another level in Content Inc., where you have the loyal audience in the middle, and you have 10 different ways that you can generate revenue. And I'm just trying to figure out, okay, where do tokens go? Where does NFTs go? And I'm really trying to figure it out. And I'm almost like, you almost have a secondary system. One system, keep it the way it is. It lives in fiat dollars. You can go to many different you can go and sell your event like you would regularly. People buy tickets. You could sell advertising and sponsorship. You could sell subscriptions for dollars, affiliate market products, and you could sell them on different platforms, just like you normally would, like any company would. Or you could have it within your own token economy, and you control the supply chain. Like, you're selling directly to the person instead of selling on Amazon or selling in a marketplace or selling wherever you're going to sell it. You could sell it directly to them through some token system, and you could sell conferences and events with this, premium content, subscriptions, products, all with the token that you have. That's why, to your point,
that's it.
Brands are going to be all over this in the next 3 years, because you know what they hate more than anything else? Working with other people's systems. And having to go get permission to sell on other platforms, which this might be a solution for that.
Yeah, well, and that portability will be differentiation, right? So the if I can use my points that I purchase, if I have the choice between two software systems, to tools, to products. The one that offers me portability for my loyalty to take it to other things is the winner.
Yep.
And I think we're starting to see that now with the acquisitions that we're starting to see, which puts a new lens on a lot of these acquisitions, like Intuit and MailChimp and some of those kinds of things, to say there's a really interesting thing with portability here in terms of your loyalty and how you use that product across different aspects of your life, and that will ultimately in some ways be a differentiation in marketing and brand, because if, for example, you might never have signed up for a Chase credit card because you're young, you don't care, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my rave a little bit later, but you might not have Chase doesn't mean anything to you. That's your dad's bank. You don't give a crap, I've heard bad things about Chase, et cetera, or you might say, oh, Goldman Sachs, 1%. Goldman Sachs is the 1%ers. I don't like Goldman Sachs, what role they had to play in, the 2008, 2009 crisis, all that kind of stuff. I would never get a credit card from Goldman Sachs. But you did when you signed up for Apple Pay, right? When you signed up for that Apple credit card, you got a Goldman Sachs credit card, but you got an Apple credit card. And that portability between those two systems is truly what makes that, it made it the largest credit card launch in history. Mm-hmm. And that's, that there's interesting things afoot.
The last thing I'll say about this, because we've dominated the entire show, but I think it's a really important topic. This is the one reason, I think this is true. This is the reason I came out of retirement. I think, I always wanted to be more.
It wasn't to sort of explain Odell Beckham Jr. to the. No, that's why you did. Oh, I thought that's why you came out of retirement.
It's close. It was a close call.
I see.
So I always wanted to be more intuitive during the late '90s when you had Apple blowing up and Amazon and eBay. And I was around, I was paying attention, but I was still too young. I just didn't know enough. And I'm like, I wish I would have taken better advantage of that time. And then, Bitcoin takes off from 08 to 13. I'm like, I wish I'd have been more attentive during that time. Well, now I feel like this is a bigger opportunity now for the change because you and I, when we make our money, we make it off of disruption. We made our money and our name because there was a disruption in marketing. That was content marketing. And this was and this is a continuation of that disruption and into tokens, NFTs, branded experience, metaverse, whatever you want to call it. We don't know what it's going to be. We're guessing at this point. We have some ideas, but we're not sure. But I feel that's where I'm excited because I think this is the biggest opportunity we've ever seen. And I think this is The internet was made for somebody to financialize it. And finally, I think we're there, and that's the token.
There it is.
Done.
Well said.
Done.
All right. Yes. Done.
Goodbye. Good night.
Done. See, I'm telling you, if you got you and me and Baker and OBJ in a room, we could solve it. We could solve it.
I do like
guys.
OBJ because he owns a CryptoPunk, but other than that, don't be throwing out the video of you not getting the ball. That just seems like sour grapes. It's not
just
right.
Silly. It's just silly. I mean, yeah. Anyway, we're going to cover one more story here in the show before we get to our rants and rave section. And the story, because it's very related and it's also very interesting especially for those of you who are Roku users and owners. The headline comes to us courtesy of 9to5google.com. And the headline is, as YouTube feud drags on, Roku reportedly is also battling with Amazon over user data. And the article opens up by saying, Roku has been battling Google for the last few months over YouTube and YouTube TV, but it seems it may not be the only fight. According to a new report, Roku and Amazon may also be feuding over access to user data, which could have effects on Prime Video and other services if things go down the same path as they have with Google. There's an update that literally happened yesterday in this story that says Roku says in a statement to 9to5Google that negotiations with Amazon are not currently underway. The company explains in a statement, we have renewal discussions with hundreds of partners each year in the normal course of business. Providing our customers the best possible user experience and value is our goal. Our Amazon agreement is not up for renewal at this time, and there are currently no negotiations underway. But I guarantee you it's coming. For those of you not in the sort of know, and I wasn't until late last week when I read an article about this, which is that Roku and YouTube, basically Google or Alphabet, if you prefer, have been fighting over Prime search placement on their platform, on the Roku platform, which is kind of rich, actually, if you think about it for a minute, that Google is bitching about their search placement on another platform. And then secondly, the access to first party or the user data on the Roku system. Google wants that too, for the obvious reason. And all of that is causing Roku and basically Google to be at loggerheads with one another. And Google is basically saying, nope, then you get no YouTube. If you're a Roku user, you get no access to YouTube on Roku at the moment because they can't seem to
just
agree.
taking this ball and going home.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, the bigger story I think here is that this is just the beginning of this. This is just the beginning of, and boy, does this remind me of the mid 90s. So in the mid 90s, I was in cable TV. I worked for a cable TV network. I worked for Showtime Networks. And this was back in the day where there wasn't like 4 cable companies. There were hundreds of cable companies. And, every neighborhood basically had their own cable company. Even here in Los Angeles, we had like Falcon Cable and Smith Cable and Hughes Cable. And, you had basically, local providers that had grown up during the 70s and 80s were still around. And this was before, Comcast and Charter and sort of those companies sort of swallowed everybody up. And the interesting thing was where you were going to get coverage, right? What power you had as a network to get coverage. And I'll never forget, because this was in the days when Showtime was sort of like, you can argue that Showtime may still be sort of an also-ran, but HBO could walk into any cable company and basically show the logo on their card and go, you're going to carry HBO. That just like, you just need to tell us what channel it's going to be on, and here's your contract, and sign it or you're dead. When Showtime would show up, we had to show up with boxes of coats and swag and all this kind of stuff, and promise to get you to a Mike Tyson fight, and and all of that stuff to get them to try and get coverage, because the difference between HBO and Showtime that time was like, HBO had like twice as many subscribers, and you just didn't have the power. And God help you if you were one of the small little cable networks that were covering, sports or, home and garden television and all those kinds of things. And that's what really drove both the sort of creation of the one big, huge cable systems, the Charters and the Comcasts, and also what drove the thing that everybody hates today, which is the bundling. Yeah. The bundling of all these cable networks that came together, because basically what HBO did was they walked into the cable companies and said, no, here's the way it's going to be, folks. You're not only going to cover HBO, you're also going to carry Cinemax. You're going to cover, you're also going to, take this network, that network. You're going to take 4 HBOs. You're going to take our HBO Sports channel. You're going to take all these things. And if you don't like what happened with cable TV in the late 90s and early 2000s, guess what? This is exactly what's happening now with Amazon and YouTube and Roku and all of those different kind of carriers that are battling for space on the local, you consider it the first screen of your iPhone, but it's the first screen of what happens when you turn on that thing on your wall. So it's a fascinating time.
I love your idea of the cable company, because I think that's we could be at peak Web 2. And
that's right.
Because it's just gotten unwieldy. Like you and I were listening to Prof G podcast this morning, and he said that 93% of all searches come from one company. That's Google. Number 1 and number 2 search engines in the world.
Yeah.
That's scary when you have, and whether or not you believe they're evil or good or doesn't matter, the fact that one company controls the most of the internet information that's going out to individuals, that's a problem. So you basically have 5-6 companies that control most of the information, and that's how it used to be with cable companies. And now you see what happened. Most cable companies are not in the greatest shape right now, because they started making demands. They started to create their walled gardens. You have these. So I think to take it to the next level of what you're saying is that I think maybe we're going to come to a point where they've just gotten too big. That's either regulation's going to take them down, or the fact that YouTube and Amazon are complaining that Roku has too much power is ridiculous. It's laughable. Here's a Roku is the size of what? They're about a $15-20 billion company or something like that. That's just think Apple has $2 trillion or something in cash, whatever they've got.
That's right.
So it's nothing. Yeah. It's a hangnail for them. And they're really trying to push their weight around, and I don't think they can do this for much longer, because we've got other options on the way, and I'm excited about those. And you're right. We're going to see one of these a week, where they're just desperately. Facebook's. This is the same conversation we had in the beginning with Facebook. It's interesting how it worked out this way. You've got big companies that are just trying to throw their weight around, however they think is possible, to keep that power, because they're going to do anything to keep that power.
Exactly. So you just got to, to put it, to sort of bring the metaphor around. Roku here is your small, little family-owned cable network that serves, a small neighborhood, right? A small-ish audience, right? A niche audience. And Google and Amazon here, that's basically HBO in 1994 walking in going, no. You don't understand how this works, Roku. You carry us, whether you want to or not. This is literally Tony Soprano walking in going, you want to do a little business? This is the way it's going to be, And so that's it'll be very interesting, because it's in all of our best interest that not only Roku survive this, that the Roku that is trying to be right now survive this, that others, technology providers and providers that provide, for, the kinds of content and the kinds of access to content that we want is good. It's good for us as marketers. It's good for us as consumers. And, so fighting for those things is a good thing.
The fact that in the YouTube case that they're going in saying we want first billing, and we want data, unnecessary data that we really don't need.
And we want all your user data, right?
And then they're walking away if they don't get it is ridiculous. Is absolutely ridiculous that they're doing that. And again, they can, because they're one of the 5 biggest companies in the world.
And you see why, from a business perspective, you see why they're doing it, right? I can't, given the current market conditions, I can see, I understand the rationale of why they're doing it, because it's in their best interest. It would strike me that it's, at some point it becomes a self-defeating idea. But when you're as big as Google, that's like you say, Roku is a hangnail, right? I mean, they don't care. They don't care about those little companies. They just don't. It doesn't matter ultimately in the bigger scheme of what they're doing. So the way that we can help is that we can make it matter. We can make those things matter.
Absolutely. Wah. They just took that. It's so funny. That's my visualization of it. They just take their soccer ball and they go home. They're like, done. I'm done with you. And then they don't have any balls.
That's
to play
right.
with. Sad. Yeah,
that's right. All right, let's do some rants and raves. Sure. Should we? All right. Well, ladies, theydies, gentlemen, and gentle thems. How about that for a new way to say that? It is now time for our rants and raves. When Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like Odell Beckham Jr. or something that makes us feel a little like Baker Mayfield. How about that? I have two quick things.
Let me go first.
Or
let me go first. So I have two raves.
Yeah.
One is this is just a side rave, and I've never really been a Aaron Rodgers fan, but
oh no,
but he's taking part of his NFL salary in Bitcoin now, so now I am.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just had to throw that out there. So, and I know he's doing it because he's in a Square promo, but I don't care. He's getting bit. Anyone that gets crypto as part of their payment Brady. Is now. I'm now. Yeah. Even if OBJ did it, I probably would be a fan of OBJ. My real rave, and I told you this before the show. I'm on my second listen of this, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But this is the Bankless podcast with A16Z's Chris Dixon, and they go through. Basically, he goes through different mental models, and a lot of this is around the new media environment, tokenization, NFTs, basically what we just talked about this entire episode. Talks about meta, and it gave me, I started thinking about so many things differently after listening to it, and now I'm in my second listen, and I'll probably listen to it a third time. That's how critical I think listen. And by the way, I'm a huge Chris Dixon fan, so I don't know if you follow Chris Dixon.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing.
Awesome. Oh, I do.
He's been around forever. But now
years,
he leads crypto and NFTs at A16Z, and they're doing amazing work. I actually just saw a thing that A16Z might go public, which would be a new thing. But anyways, I can't recommend.
That would be.
I can't. No, it is weird, isn't it? I can't recommend it highly enough that you would listen to this, and that's where you heard a lot about Chris's thinking in this podcast from me. Is he believes in that the token is finally the financial model that will make the internet what the internet was always supposed to be. Now, you could say that's pie in the sky. You could say we've got a long way to go, but we definitely see the indicators. And the last thing I'll say about it, and this is where it really started to hit home, how early we are in this process when he said, look, we've only got 10 million digital MetaMask wallets of 7 billion people. So this is so early. This is 1995 internet early.
Right.
That we're in this. Right. And so a lot of this stuff, as you and I have talked about on this podcast, is conjecture, it's guessing, it's you're going to see a lot of people make stupid mistakes. A lot of these NFT projects that are out there, and I will agree with you, are really hilariously stupid. And people are taking a bath on it, and you're going to see that just like you saw the globe.com go public. You're going to see the same type of things happen here, but you're going to have your winners like we saw in the late 90s. And you're going to start to see the economy like completely change its shape. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. It's the Bankless podcast with Chris Dixon. It was from November 1st or something like that, but I'll put it in the show notes so everybody can link to it. It's must listen to. So that's my rave. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh yeah, I'm on. I just wrote it down. I'm gonna go subscribe to it because I have not actually subscribed to that podcast yet. I listened to one episode that you recommended a while back.
Yeah, I'm a paid subscriber to their Substack. I'm actively supporting them in what they're doing at Bankless because, of course, I believe in their mission and what they're doing. But they have some of the best content out there.
I believe. I can believe.
What do you got on your side?
All right, so I'm not going to do my impression there. I have two quick things, which is one, it's from the New York Times. The headline is Apple's most back-ordered new product is not what you might expect. It's apparently a $19 cloth. That's right, you heard that correctly. Apple this month, of course, announced a whole bunch of new machines, more powerful MacBooks, AirPod wireless headphones, HomePod minis, all that kind of stuff. But the back-ordered item that has the most back orders is, quite frankly, a 6 by 6 inch cloth used to wipe all your smudges off of your screens. Not even kidding. $19 for this little rag. And so this is the key here. I mean, go read the article if you want, but basically the headline for me is brand matters. Brand matters. If you have a strong brand for, I don't get it much these days, but I certainly get a lot of people, some CEOs, and I literally had a CEO, a couple of weeks ago, a client actually tell me, brand doesn't matter that much in these days. Brand does not. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And this is proof. If you can charge 3 times basically, or, twice as much as your competitor for a rag that you could charge $19 for a piece of cloth that is ostensibly a rag with your logo on it, you're doing something right. And so whether you think it's worth it or not, it doesn't matter. The fact that they're charging $19 for a rag and they're chock-a-block full of orders for it just tells me all I need to know. This is... we talk a lot about the excess cash around in the world for things like NFTs and those kinds of things, but this is that, right? This is what the value of a brand is. Anyway, so a rave there, I guess, for the Apple brand more than anything else, but just a fascinating piece of commentary alongside. The second thing is I think I rave about this every year. It's just because I love every single year what they do. I'm a little bummed that it came out as early as it did because of, it's just I'm not ready for Christmas yet. But the John Lewis Christmas ad, they do one every single year. Every single year, it's amazing. The creative behind what they're doing is absolutely beautiful. This year, it's a wonderful, I'm not spoiling anything, a tale of a teenage boy and an alien girl on Christmas, and it's, the magic of Christmas. And go watch it. We'll link it in the show notes. But it's just fantastic. It's just, once again, fantastic and touching and lovely. Great advertising, great storytelling, and, just this is what marketing should be.
So early for holidays, though.
So it is definitely so early for holidays. I'm not sure I can take it, but yeah,
that means, go. We're almost on Thanksgiving, and then, oh my goodness, another year has passed.
There you go. That's right. Another year has passed. It's amazing.
That's it. Yeah.
What's on check? What do you got? Yeah. What do you got this week?
That is a great question. We are actually going to see some family over the weekend. We're going to take a little driving trip. I don't want to say where because it might be close. If anybody's listening, don't come by the house. I got it. Got the Doberman. No. Yeah, no, we're going to go see some family. We're starting our holiday travels. I know, so nuts. But yeah, we're gonna go do that, and so it'll be hopefully good driving weather. What do you got going on?
Yeah. I think we're gonna try and go out to the beach this weekend and just hang out a little bit. I have a big trip next week. I have my last trip of the year, third trip of this year and last. I'm gonna see some of the CMI gang out in Washington D.C. And then I have a speaking engagement down in Orlando, Florida, which will be my last place. My favorite place in the world. You know how much I love Orlando, Florida. Hey.
You love it. You secretly do love it.
Yeah. But it's going to be great. It's a great event, great group of people that I'm going to be speaking with, and I'm really looking forward to the speaking part. I'm looking less forward to the Orlando part, but that'll be my last trip, and then I'm back, for the holiday and all that.
Go. Absolutely, crazy stuff.
All right. remember, folks, get us up your questions. Get them in the audio form. If you go to the site, get them in the hashtag in the Twitter. We want your questions. 300 is coming up, and we're going to make it a special thing. But for now, we're going to sign off. And remember, all that wonderful stuff, including the ability to send us questions, you can get at our site, thisoldmarketing.site. And that's where you can get all the wonderful shows, including the other 295 episodes of this show as we approach 300. Remember, until we meet again, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.